In this video, we'll show you how to restore your old, worn wheels and get professional, long-lasting results on a budget. Let's get to it. We're going to demonstrate the process on our old Jeep wheels. They look okay from a distance, but once you get up close, you can see the wheel weights. The old location of previous wheel weights, paint flaking off and rust everywhere. Our plan is to wash them, remove and treat all the rust, and respray them with 2K Raptor paint. Let's get to work. First, you need to take your wheels off. Start by breaking the lug nuts loose. When they're loose, jack up your car. Put it on jack stands and further remove the lug nuts and take off the wheels. If you're using regular 1K paint, you can take them off and clean, prep, and spray paint them one by one. 2K spray paint, on the other hand, hardens within 24 hours from the moment it is mixed in the can. So it's best to wash, prep, and paint all the wheels at the same time so you don't risk the paint hardening after only using half a can. Now that the wheels are off, it's time to wash them. Because the inside is visible through our wheels, we're going to restore and spray paint this too. If you only want to coat the wheel faces, you don't need to do this side, of course. Just grab a bucket with water, put some soap in it, and use a sponge to work as much dirt, grime, and rust flakes loose as you can. Then just rinse it off and let it dry while you clean the other wheels. If your wheels have wheel weights like ours, it's best to remove them so you don't have spots without paint under the wheel weights if you decide to get new tires and have them balanced. It's best to have a professional balance your old wheels after sanding and painting. But if you would like to put them on again yourself, we'll show you how. First, mark the exact location and weight on the tire with a non-permanent marker. Get yourself some cheap wheel weight pliers, hook the pointy part in the hole of the wheel weight, and close it with a stump part on top of the wheel weight. Then just tilt the pliers forward and it's off. It's that easy. We'll put a link to all the products we use in the description below. And now, we need to sand everything down with fine to medium grit sandpaper to remove as much rust as possible and finish with a scuff pad to create a smooth surface. Because Raptor spray is very thick and has a rugged look to it, it can hide a lot of imperfections. But if you use normal 1K or 2K paint, you gotta make sure that the surface is very smooth. If you can feel the imperfections with your bare hands, you'll see them through the paint. Vacuum or blow the dust away after sanding. Then use a silicone remover and degreaser spray to remove any remaining dust or grease. If you have really old and rusty wheels like us, you need to first treat the rust with rust reformer. This converts any rust and prevents it from spreading any further. Put the product on a sponge and wipe it on. After a while, you'll see the product darken in the orange rust, meaning that it works. After letting it dry for the indicated amount of time mentioned on the product, you can paint right over it. Depending on the type of wheel, you already had to take off the center cap to access the bolts. If it's still on like ours, take it off now. Tape off the holes in the contact area between the wheel and hub. You don't want to paint the contact area itself. Take your curved painter's tape and follow around the edges, sticking it as far between there as possible. We prefer using flat tape over the card method you see a lot online because the cards stand upright, making it impossible to properly paint the wheel edge, especially with thicker paint like Raptor spray. If you'll only paint the wheel face, tape off the holes from the back. But because we're going to paint the inside too, we're first going to tape the holes off from the front. And don't forget to tape off the valve stem. To make sure we don't get overspray on the tire, we use cheap plastic wrap. Just tape the beginning to the tire, wrap it around it, and spread the plastic wrap towards the existing tape. Then use some painter's tape to fix it into place, making sure there's no exposed tire left. If you're going to paint the inside like we do, repeat the process for the other side. Now that everything is taped off and covered, it's time to start painting. Because Raptor spray needs to be sprayed from 2 to 3 feet distance and the inside of these wheels have ridges we can't spray behind, we're going to paint the inside with regular matte black 2K primer and paint. And to make sure everything in those nooks is coated, we're first going to spray some on a sponge brush and apply it behind those ledges. To facilitate paint in those awkward angles, we're mounting the wheels back on the car, but backwards. To protect the face of the wheel, we've put spacers made from rubber leftovers on there and then just put the wheel on hand tight. This way we can rotate the tire while working, making it a lot easier to paint everything. Just to make sure, we're going to degrease the surface one last time before painting. Better safe than sorry. To mix a spray can of 2K paint, you need to shake it really hard for 2 minutes. Then you need to take the red cap, put it on the bottom, and press it on a flat surface until it pops. Now that the two components are mixing, you need to shake it for another 2 minutes. Like with any spray can, it is best to first test it on a piece of cardboard so you know how wide the spray pattern is and how much paint comes out. Now you can start painting. Like we said before, we're going to first use a sponge brush to paint behind these ledges and then spray a first layer behind there as well. We do advise to wear a respirator and Tyvek coverall while working with 2K paint. It is very unhealthy and the toxic vapors pass through normal clothing and get absorbed by your skin. Normal 1K paint is not as unhealthy but is also a lot softer and will scratch a lot faster. To facilitate painting the rest of the inside and the face of the wheels, we've created a super simple yet effective setup that will speed up the process and help you get a much better result. We've made a rotating platform by clamping a bicycle wheel between a workbench and covered everything in plastic, of course. Stick a piece of tape on one side so you can easily track how many rotations the wheel has made. That way you know if you've painted around the entire wheel before moving on to the next part. The weight of the car tire will keep it spinning long enough after giving it a spin. Just look at how long it keeps going after giving it only one spin. An incredible 7 rotations. This is gonna be perfect. Now we're gonna apply 2 coats of primer and 2 coats of 2K base coat. Start on the outside edge and slowly work your way inside, making sure everything gets covered. Don't stay in the same spot for too long. You don't want to risk the paint to start running, ruining the result. It's best to work in multiple thinner coats. Check the manufacturer's instructions for the correct drying time between coats. Repeat the process for the second coat of primer, once again making sure everything is nicely covered without applying too much at once. Finally, it's time for the base coat. Once again, make sure not to apply too much at once and work in multiple layers. It's best to apply the final layer a bit thicker so the paint flows better, ensuring a nice and even finish. While the paint is not fully dried yet, remove the tape so you don't risk the edges flaking when pulling off the tape. Repeat this process for all the wheels. Again, because it is 2K paint, it will harden inside the can within 24 hours after mixing. So it's best to paint all the wheels one after the other. Look at that result. We've turned this dirty, rusted wheel into an awesome looking one. Now let's do the same for the wheel face with Raptor spray. First tape off the backside of the hole so you don't spray Raptor on the inside of the wheels. Then flip the wheel over and degrease the wheel face one last time. Now first use the U-Pole grip for primer, which is the preferred primer to use with Raptor spray. After letting it dry for about 20 minutes depending on the ambient temperature, it's time for the Raptor spray itself. Just like with normal 2K paint, shake for 2 minutes, activate the can and shake for another 2 minutes. Then try it out on a piece of cardboard to get a feel with the spray pattern and quantity. As you can see, it sprays a lot of paint in a narrow pattern, so you'll have to be careful not to create puddles of paint. You need to spray Raptor spray from at least 2 to 3 feet distance depending on how fine you want the texture to be. We want it to be a very fine structure, so we went with 3 to 4 feet in a fast motion. If you want to have a more rippled texture, you need to spray from 2 to 3 feet in slower movements, applying a thicker coat. You need to keep a move on though, because Raptor spray has a lifetime of only 60 minutes in the can after mixing. If you want to paint your center caps like we do, but just like in our case, they prevent you from properly spray painting the wheel face, it's best to give them a first layer separately. Afterwards, mount the center cap on the wheel face and spray them together so the Raptor structure matches. A fine, nice, and even structure, just like we wanted. Looks awesome. Now we only need to take off the tape while the paint isn't hard yet and admire the result. Even the outside edges are perfectly coated with our method, something that's not possible to do with the cards method you see online. And the result looks amazing. Just look at that result. The rough structure is going to look great on our black Jeep. And because it's 2K Raptor spray, it will last much longer than regular 1K paint. There's only one more thing left to do now. Perfect. That's all there is to it. Thanks for watching. If you liked our video, please make sure to like, subscribe, and share. It helps out the channel a lot. And don't forget to hit that bell button so you don't miss any of our uploads. More videos are on the way, so we'll see you on the next one.